Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Sometimes what you need is a different perspective. If the same voices are speaking into your life every single week, it's hard to make progress. So today we're going to talk about the pace of change, lessons from traveling, and the psychology of winning, and how you can stay positive in a negative news cycle with an amazing guest on the Real Estate Guys radio program.
If you love real estate and have always wanted to own your own business, listen up. The Real Estate Guys and their panel of experts want to teach you how to go full-time fast in the real estate syndication business. These next few years may go down in history as one of the best times ever to acquire investment real estate. There are deals everywhere if you know where to look and how to assemble the resources. The Secrets of Successful Syndication seminar will show you how to make big money doing big deals from a team of experts that have syndicated projects totaling more than $1 billion. Don't wait for someone to give you a raise or create a job for you. Attend the Secrets of Successful Syndication and learn how to build a team, raise capital, find deals, and make full-time money in 6 months or less. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events. All the big players use syndication as a way to diversify risk, optimize profits, and earn big money. You can too. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events.
Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. Joining me as usual, it's our financial strategist and co-host, Russell Gray.
Hey, Robert.
You know, there is an endless number of things to talk about, and if you've been reading our newsletters, oh my gosh, there's just so many things to get your mind around with what's happening, where the country is going, where the world is going. We're taking a little break from all that this week because this thing happens when you start to fill your brain with any material, like when you're writing your master's thesis or putting together a book or a presentation. Your whole world revolves around a few things. Right now, there's a lot of people that have been anguishing over riots in the streets and coronavirus and all kinds of things, the dollar and just you name it. And yet I think we sometimes lose sight that there is a much bigger picture than that. And today, we're going to maybe share some ideas about staying positive when the news cycle is so negative.
Well, I mean, I think the important thing is just perspective. And that's why you want to have a mastermind group. That's why you want to have a tribe. It's why you read history. It's why you have quiet times when you're not thinking about what's coming in on the news feed or flipping through your phone, where you just contemplate your life and you think about the future. You reflect on the lessons of the past and you set your mind on making the most of the day that you have in front of you, because that's really all you can be sure of. And there is a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. And that's where taking time to talk to people that have been there, done that. You know, we've been working hard on this crisis investing webinar series, talking to lots of people who are really smart, who watch different corners of the economic and financial system universe, and bringing them all together to get perspective. And it calms you down a little bit because people, sure, they see the problems, but they also see the opportunities. And when you study history, I mean, I was just thinking about this. When my mother was 2 years old, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, and we were getting entered into what looked like could have been the war that would end the world, right? Can you imagine being my grandmother with a little baby and a husband going off to be in the Army or in the Air Force in that environment? That's pretty bad. When I was 2 years old, John F. Kennedy got assassinated. I was in grade school. I don't know about you, Robert, but we used to have to do bomb drills. They would do the air raid siren, and we would have to go underneath our desks like we were being bombed. That was part of being a child in school, being prepared to be bombed. Think about that. But I had a fun childhood. I did the drills. I'd go out and play, and the world went on. I watched Nixon take us off the gold standard, and the stagflation of the 70s were my teenage years. And I entered the workforce and did my first investment deal when property interest rates were in the teens, high teens. Oh my God, how's the world going to go on? It goes on. But you only know that from perspective. And how do you gain perspective, especially as a young person without a lot of experience? You talk to old people. You talk to people that have been there, done that.
Well, and the older we get, the harder it is to find older people than us. But we've got a great guest for you this week. In fact, he was first on the show more than 15 years ago and just blew my mind then as he continues to. Speaking of masterminds, over this past weekend, I had a chance to attend Kyle Wilson's Inner Circle Mastermind. And Denis Waitley was a guest and was phenomenal. And back in January 22nd, in fact, I had a chance to sit down with Denis Waitley in his home and record the interview you're going to hear next. And normally when we do a show, the interview is fairly recent. Like we just did it, then we're about to get it on the air. And this is not the case here. And I bring that up for a couple of reasons. One, you'll hear us talk a bit about travel and what a great teacher travel can be. And of course, travel has been changed a lot. Dr. Waitley is still working from home virtually to audiences around the world. But also, you'll notice he talked about the coronavirus. Again, January 22nd, he was watching that. So the bigger picture is that Denis Waitley is a tremendous coach and personal development author, speaker, trainer. He's worked with elite athletes, he's worked with astronauts, and he's worked with folks from all kinds of walks of life. So when we come back, you'll get to meet the amazing and legendary Denis Waitley today on the Real Estate Guys radio program.
Live nationwide, you're listening to the Real Estate Guys. Find out more at realestateguysradio.com.
In uncertain times like this, it's great to know there are two things you can always count on: high demand for affordable single-family homes to live in, and Terry Kerr's amazing Memphis team at Mid-South Home Buyers to find, fix, and manage the next addition to your recession-resistant real estate portfolio. The Memphis market is a logistics and distribution dynamo with an economic engine that's essential to moving goods and critical supplies all over the United States. Quality rehab, proven profitable property management, affordable rents, and solid ROI make turnkey property investing through Terry's team a dream when it matters most. To learn more about Memphis and Mid-South Home Buyers, send an email to midsouth@realestateguysradio.com. That's midsouth@realestateguysradio.com.
Hi, this is Garrett Sutton, Robert Kiyosaki's asset protection attorney and the author of Loopholes of Real Estate and Start Your Own Corporation. As an American or foreign-based investor in U.S. real estate, you know we are a litigious society. You know that you need to protect your real estate, paper, and bullion holdings with the right mix of LLCs and corporations. Our firm, Corporate Direct, not only forms these entities, but importantly, we properly maintain them too. If you fail to follow the corporate formalities, you can lose it all in an instant. Corporate Direct is your source for LLC protection and maintenance in all 50 states. Visit corporatedirect.com or call 800-600-1760. Mention the Real Estate Guys for a free bonus. That's 800-600-1760 or corporatedirect.com. We look forward to assisting you at corporatedirect.com.
Hello, this is Robert Kiyosaki. I'm the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And if you're serious about learning how to invest in real estate, listen to the Real Estate Guys. They really know what they're talking about.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program, now in its 23rd year of broadcast. And we're not talking about real estate as much today as we are about the importance of you understanding what it takes to be successful. And it is my absolute honor to have returning to the Real Estate Guys show after about 16 years, Denis Waitley. How are you, my friend?
Great, Robert. Great to be with you. This is a real honor for me and a privilege.
Well, you have hardly changed a bit. You've got that amazing voice, and that's actually one of the interesting things. You have kind of a radio background.
Well, it's kind of they call it a Pat Boone warmed over voice. We notice that Pat Boone is doing mostly Depends and walk-in shower and tubs. And I remember when he was in blue suede shoes. So I have that somnambulistic voice. But unfortunately, Robert, my voice actually does put people to sleep sometimes. So I've noticed that when people get on the train in China to come to hear me, the whole front row is asleep when I'm doing my most important point. So I have to remember that I have a voice that is more hypnotic than exciting.
You know, when you started really speaking, it wasn't like it is today. There wasn't the access to information we have, and I know you're big on the digital side now, but I mean, you really did have to pack up and go somewhere and address a big room full of people, and that's changed, but the messages haven't changed. Your best-selling program, The Psychology of Winning, every bit as valid today as it was when you first recorded it.
Well, it may be, but it sure needs to be out in 3 minutes or it's not listened to by Gen Z. You know, they really are in a hurry and they really are interested in instant gratification. But if they would just take a little more time in self-awareness, a little more time and investing, that's why this is a great show. Investing in real property, which is in yourself, and in the talents you have, in stuff that lasts, which is like real property. And one of the reasons why it's so great to be on your show is that my son-in-law, and we're actually sitting in the main part of his investment part of the house.
Yep.
My investment part is over there. And so he and I have invested in this property, but he handles all of the real property investments for the United Arab Emirates. So he's working for ADIA, Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, and he travels around the world to invest the oil proceeds in real property, knowing that when the oil runs out, the real property will be what lasts, because what's on the ground is as important as what's in the ground.
Boy, that's amazing. You know, it's been said for years that the oil industry understands kind of where it's going, and that just says it right there. And also people tend to, wherever they make their money, one of the ways they often preserve wealth is in real estate. And this is a great example. A beautiful family compound here, right? Your daughters are here, and your grandkids come and visit a lot. And that's one of the primary uses of real estate. It isn't just to make money. It's to create legacy and life memories.
Yes, and he's been traveling all over the world all the time. He's in charge of global real property investment for all of the Emirates. And most of the oil, as you know, comes from Abu Dhabi. It doesn't come from Dubai. So the Abu Dhabi oil money goes into Sheikh Mohammed's playland, which is 18 karat gold Las Vegas in Dubai. So the real property in Dubai is what attracts tourists, culture, business. So like you say, investment in also culture. Abu Dhabi sees itself as the cultural center of the Middle East. Guggenheim, the Louvre, NYU, Cleveland Clinic, the finest hotels, the finest restaurants, the finest places. So real property, he's opened my eyes on that. He travels, you know, he's best in China, in Brazil, all over, and they try to find things that will last, not only in the path of progress, but that will endure, because they know that oil has endured but won't endure. And that's why they're big in real property investment rather than equities.
Yeah, that brings up a great point, which is everything changes, right? Like we were talking about with the way that information is delivered, everything changes in terms of the millennials having a shorter attention span. But there are some of the truths, the things that are still principles, if you will. And you've traveled to more than 100 countries. What are some of the commonality you see as you meet different cultures, different people, that really are the things we can glean if we want to be successful?
I think the most important thing is they make their mind up very quickly. That first impressions are everlasting, but you can overcome them. But make sure when you're coming in, you're prepared, you know what turns them on, you know what turns them off. And I try to do that whenever I'm going anywhere. What's the cultural etiquette here? What are the manners that matter here to them? And then I try to blend into that, even though I may feel differently. I may not want to eat a grasshopper. I may tip by mistake. I may do these things, but I will always try to blend in with where I'm going. That's one of the things I've learned that's universal, is that do your homework, because there's no borders anymore. But what used to be an ugly American, where we used to travel and say, aren't there any burgers here? Right. Or I have to eat in the Hilton because I can't eat at any of these places. Or we would travel and believe because we had money that we were somehow superior because of the money. Now you find that Asian cultures and people who have money, they need to be smart when they travel because they don't know how to handle their money when they travel. They think you can be boorish, brutish, and intimidating. So I think it's important to win by inspiration rather than intimidation. Don't try to flaunt it, and don't try to show people how much you have and how far you've come. First, ask a lot of questions. Make sure you're looking around and see what goes on here before you make your statement. That's one of the things I've learned globally is to, when you go to Korea, for example, they're much more formal and they use titles and they don't use first names. So they're a very formal culture, so you can be formal there. So even though we're in a dress down, informal, wear jeans, we do that, but you notice that Silicon Valley does that because they're already multimillionaires at the top. They can dress any way they want. But we still have to make an impression instantly on everyone we meet. And so do it in a way that makes them feel respectful and respecting you. That's some of the things. But smiling, yeah, that's usually good.
Yeah, good start.
Firm handshake, but not a bone cruncher. Yeah.
Yep.
Eye contact, great. Asking a lot of questions, saying something nice about it. And one of the main things is never complain about a local area that you're in because you may have a lasting negative impression that may even lose a big business deal. For example, when you go to Beijing, the worst thing you could say is, don't you ever see the sun? It is so smoggy and polluted here. How do you stand it? Or, I noticed there are gas masks in the hotel. When you say things like that, they lose face. And face is very important to every culture in that you want to make sure that when you're traveling or talking to someone that you say something nice that you've noticed rather than a complaint that you have locally. That's a global etiquette. But all over the world, everyone wants their space, their comfort zone, and a place. They want a nice roof over their head and the security of a place that belongs to them. That's universal.
You know, many years ago, you and I were backstage at an event that Kyle Wilson, our good friend, put on. And I remember you were talking a lot about China. You're the first guy I heard talking about, hey, China's going to be the future. And you were going there, traveling, do a lot of work there. And now China has manifested to be this big power. What do you see now in that regard?
Well, it's really interesting. You know, I went there in the late 70s. So when they turned over Hong Kong to China, I was there at the time. First into Shenzhen and the provinces, been watching it. And I've probably spoken in more cities in China than any other American speaker. And I have the finest interpreter that goes with me, and so he's able to even tell jokes that they actually laugh at. Because he say, Dennis thinks he's being funny now, so you can go ahead and laugh when he finishes, don't wait. What I see is very interesting is that they have this incredible middle class coming up and still the poverty-rich gap. So you've got these more billionaires being created there than here. You have people who are they're using currency only on their phone, so they're way ahead, believe it or not, technology-wise in terms of using their smartphone. So they're really tethered to their smartphones. They won't listen as much. Well, they would prefer to hear your radio show, but could they see something on their smartphone too? Yeah. Because they're visual as well as verbal. But I see enormous infrastructure problems. Water, sanitation. The latest thing going on now is the coronavirus that's going on in Wuhan province. It's showing up, and they have so many people. Their statement is, we have most of the people in the world and all of the time. We only think in 100-year segments, Dennis. And so, we've been through this. We've been through these empires before. And we realize that no one's ever survived its own success. So we think long-term rather than short-term money. We don't buy it, finance it, flip it, and necessarily just remodel it. We look for the real strong long-term. The tariffs have been a problem. they don't know how to handle us. They don't know what we're doing. I don't have anything to say about politics other than they are an incredibly powerful, dominant economic force. So I wrote a book called The Dragon and the Eagle. And they're the dragon. They've been here for thousands of years, but they're cumbersome, they're heavy, and they have a lot of tradition, some of which is not good. They also have a very dominant autocratic system where the good news is it's like Sheikh Mohammed in Dubai. If he wants to build a bridge, he builds it. He doesn't have to go through environmentalists or anywhere else, and neither do they in China. So they're not as environmentally conscious as we should be with the carbon footprint. So they're polluting more and faster. They're in a hurry. The young people are in a hurry. The older people are not. I think they will become the dominant economic force later than I thought. I thought it would be about 2025, but I think they've slowed down because of some of the real estate mistakes they've made by build a stadium and they will come.
Yeah.
And I've seen some of the most beautiful highways to nowhere with the streets that are all lit up with only a goat cart and somebody pulling the old rickshaw on some of the highways. I've seen, Shanghai is 4 Manhattans put together. What I like about it is they're putting trees and flowers on the roof, and the architecture is different where they're not using the old Manhattan stone. They're using all different kinds, so it's a very exciting, Shanghai is very exciting. Shanghai and Shenzhen would be maybe 2 cities in the world that can be seen from outer space because there's so much of it and so lit up. But I see China as a very dominant, powerful, formidable force that it also rattles its sabers a little bit. And they want Taiwan back if they consider it's part of China. They also, the islands around there, they're putting military establishments. And their borders are inching out into areas that are getting closer and closer to other countries. So by the sheer weight of the population and a standing army of millions, they have never had to go out and be adventuresome. They've never had to travel by ship. Everyone's come to China for the silk and the stuff, but I think we're going to see that they're going to reach out more, and they still really know how to copy intellectual property quickly and do it almost as good as we can. I love China. I love the culture. I love the fact they still take care of their families. There's some filial sons and filial daughters, but they're moving away from the families living together. So the young couples are getting a place for their mom and dad, but not necessarily the same place. So real property is changing. They're getting more green space, using more solar. Very fascinating culture to me. I love China, and yet they do have concerns because they don't need to go through a process of the people first. You can't congregate in a very large group, so you can't have 10,000 people come to your rally. You could have 3 to 5 as long as they're there. And every time I speak in China, they want to see my graphics. They want to take a look at the PowerPoint, see what's going on. They want to make sure I don't talk about freedom and me free. They want to talk about diligence, pay your taxes, do what's right. And constantly that tune, because they do better collectively than they do entrepreneurially. Although Jack Ma with Alibaba has done very well, but then he copied the Amazon model too. So I just give you a thumbnail sketch coming from one troubadour that just wandered through China and been watched and listened as I go.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate that, having never been. And again, it got this theme of how different places are in the world. One of the books you wrote, Seeds of Greatness, that was really inspired from trips that you made to Africa. Can you talk about that?
East Africa, Kenya and the Masai Mara and Serengeti are the 2 places that still have the Great Migration. So I've been studying that, and out of Africa, of course, and then Meryl Streep in that wonderful film. So you look at that, and I say that's where all the wildlife is not behind bars. I've never liked the zoo because I watch the animals pace up and back because they're paranoid in that they can't get out. They want to get out, but they know they can't, and they remind me of POWs. They're there for the duration until somebody lets them out. So when I go to Africa, and I would encourage any of the people that listen to you, don't just go to South Africa and the Kruger Forest, and don't just go to the places where they bring the animals in. They buy a lion for $50,000, and he's an old lion, and he's no longer the king of the jungle, but they put him in an area where they know he is, and they throw him his food so he doesn't have to hunt. And then the ranger, who's got a crisp new uniform and taking you in the Jeep, goes down the path and says, wait a minute, just around the corner, and they make you believe that you're really roughing it. But if you really want to see Africa, go the 1920s way and do either the tent safaris and go to the middle of the Serengeti or the Masai Mara and see it all taking place in real time as it always has been, maybe for 150,000 years. And of course you can't shoot them, I wouldn't anyway, but you can shoot them with your camera and you can remember them with your eyes. And it's been the greatest experience for me and my family to go there virtually 8 years in a row. And it's the place that I would most go back. They said, where would you go if you could? And I said, I'd go there one more time. I'd go one more time.
Yeah. Boy, it got under my skin. We went a year and a half ago, and my son and I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro.
Oh my gosh.
Which was amazing with our good friend Kenny McElroy. And then the rest of my family came in, and we did 4 days immersive safari. It's life-changing to think about. So, and then I'm sure in my subconscious, it was reading that book that had me thinking we should go do that. Then this opportunity came up, and I said, I'm not just going to climb the hill. We're gonna go do this. And my dad came. He's just a couple years younger than you, and boy, he just loved it. So I'm right with you there. This is the angle of real estate we don't always talk about.
That's
it isn't
right.
just about having apartments and about having commercial. Love all that, but there's a magic about the different places in the world.
Oh, there really is, and it is. It's like 5-star roughing it.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't like to camp on the ground and then have the ants come in. I mean, I don't like mosquitoes. Fortunately, in East Africa, in the Mara, it's high enough, and nearly 6,000 feet, nearly as high as Denver. You don't have the mosquitoes there, so you don't get malaria or yellow fever. So it's roughing it 5-star, and the tents have a Maasai warrior out in front with a spear and a lantern, and they make sure that no critters and they zip you up at night, and so, but it's still, you hear the roar, you see it as it's happening. It's not put on. And we have so much in life that is virtual reality or that is staged that I like the real thing from that. The other thing is that the seeds of greatness is my entire belief system. The only reason I'm on this earth is to plant shade trees for future generations under which I myself will never sit. Yeah. And that's it for me. I'm planning whatever I can to shade other people, but I won't sit under them. But my great-grandchildren will. I have great-granddaughters already who are saying, Papa, Daddy said you made a lot of money selling tapes. Are they the kind you wrap around your finger or your ankle? I said, no, they're a different kind, but you wouldn't know that.
Right.
I said, could you believe that you can play a tape? They said, why would you play with the tape? I said, that's why I'm not going to tell you. They don't even know what an MP3 or MP4 are. I mean, streaming is their way. Yeah. It's all streaming. They may not even have to record anything. It's just there for them.
We often marvel that when we grew up, whenever that was, that any kind of sound that was a moving mechanism, whether it was a tape or a record, something moved. And today, it's not like that at all. Or the idea that a show comes on at a certain time. We're still heard in radio where we come on at a certain time, but most people that listen to our podcast or whenever they want to listen is fine, right? So back to that recurring idea of change. We're talking with author, speaker, and high-performance coach Denis Waitley. We'll have lots more with Denis, and we'll play real estate trivia next. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
real estate investment advice right in your mailbox. Sign up for the free Real Estate Guys newsletter at realestateguysradio.com.
When the world changes, investing strategy changes too. The coronavirus is disrupting economies, financial systems, and daily life like nothing in modern history. Sheltering in place might protect you from the virus, but a wait-and-see approach to investing now is like pulling the sheets over your head while the house burns down. It's not the time to be complacent. So we're calling our huge network of thought leaders, seasoned investors, and technical experts to find out what they're seeing, thinking, and doing to mitigate risk and capture opportunity, and we're recording all of it. We're calling it our Coronavirus Crisis Investing Webinar, and it's totally free. All you need to do is register. Remember, mainstream media doesn't talk to real estate investors. They don't understand you because Wall Street pays them not to. That's why the real estate guys are here. To register for the Crisis Investing Webinar, simply send an email to crisis@realestateguysradio.com. That's crisis@realestateguysradio.com. Real world wisdom is the best vaccine for a healthy financial future. Send your email to crisis@realestateguysradio.com.
Having trouble finding deals where the numbers make sense? Invest in an asset class that delivers cash flow to you in good times and bad, and where most of that cash flow is tax-free. I'm Dave Zook. Many of you have heard me speak at Real Estate Guys events or heard me on their podcast. My team is a top 5 ATM operator in the country, and right now accredited investors can make cash flow returns well into the double digits and get huge tax deductions. For your free report on this lucrative asset class, email atm@realestateguysradio.com.
Hey, this is Peter Schiff, and when you're not listening to me at SchiffRadio.com, make sure and listen to the Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks so much for tuning into the show today. Hey, if you're not signed up to get the Real Estate Guys newsletter, well, you want to do that. This week was an amazing newsletter, and I can say that because Russ wrote it. All you have to do to sign up is go to our website at realestateguysradio.com and click the little button on the right that says newsletter, or here's a shortcut, send an email to newsletter@realestateguysradio.com. We're in Rancho Santa Fe, California, talking with the amazing Denis Waitley. Before we get back to that conversation, it's time to play Real Estate Trivia. That's your chance to win a prize by knowing today's Real Estate Trivia question. Just a minute, I'll give you a question that's kind of related to real estate. In fact, something Denis was talking about. And as soon as you hear the question and think you know the answer, send your best guess to trivia@realestateguysradio.com. Trivia@realestateguysradio.com. You want to include your name, the answer to the question, and your mailing address, because if you're the first to get it right, you're going to get a cool book called Purpose, Passion, and Profit, a collection of awe-inspiring stories put together by our good friend Kyle Wilson. That could be yours if you know today's real estate trivia question. Last week on the show, we were talking tax changes with CPA Tom Wheelwright, and we asked this: it's against the law to eat a certain food on Sunday in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Which food? Well, believe it or not, hamburgers. Yeah, you can't eat a hamburger legally on a Sunday in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Now you know. Here's our real estate trivia question for this week. We were talking with Denis about China, and the trivia question is this. In the Chinese culture, every year is represented by an animal. What animal represents 2020? Yeah, this year is the year of fill in the blank. If you know or just want to take a guess, send your best guess to trivia@realestateguysradio.com. Trivia@realestateguysradio.com. You want to include the name of the animal, your name, and your mailing address, so that if you're the first to get it right, we can send you Purpose, Passion, and Profit. That's today's real estate trivia question. We're talking with prolific author and amazing speaker, Denis Waitley. Now, Denis, one of the things you've done for a long time is to help people from different backgrounds and various walks of life figure out the keys to achievement. You've worked with Apollo astronauts, heads of state, Olympic gold medalists, Fortune 500 top executives. In fact, you were even a pilot in the Navy. So what are some of the things that folks who get things done have in common so that we can glean some ideas to live the best version of each of us?
Well, I think one thing is they're not afraid of risk. They're not afraid of appearing foolish in the eyes of others. And when we begin anything new, we don't do it well. Since we don't do it well, people look at us and say, you're kind of clumsy, huh? And we don't like to be laughed at unless we're being a comedian. So we hesitate to do things that are unfamiliar. And for some reason, the people I've worked with are willing to risk being foolish in the eyes of others to jump in. So they don't wait for the perfect time. They just do it. And so I'm getting, so I think it, I think it, I do it. So I think something, then I do it instead of putting it on a to-do list that I can procrastinate till there's a deadline that I need to do it. They're very proactive instead of reactive. They're willing to take a risk. They do have a feeling of optimism. However, they don't necessarily believe you should shoot for the moon and then get halfway there. I think they all believe inside of them that there's something inside that makes them special and be able to achieve. And so they have a level of expectancy that is probably more realistic than most people because they actually feel it, train it, practice it, obsess with it, and then they take steps. And when they fail, they find another way. They don't give up. So they never give up. They get a different way to do there, and they will not allow any distraction to come against their magnificent obsession. Focus always precedes success. They're just into what they're going for. People will poo-poo it and tell them they can't, they shouldn't, they wouldn't. They just do it anyway. And so they're willing to take that negative. They're willing to fail. They're willing to make mistakes. And they treat failure as fertilizer. You don't like it? It doesn't smell good. But boy, when you spread it onto the future ground, it sure helps you grow green stuff if you don't roll in it.
Such a good point. You know, when people first start out investing in real estate, for whatever reason, they think, boy, my first deal is going to be a home run. And that's just not true. And unfortunately, if they make a mistake and it's a financial burden, then they don't want to do it again. Instead of taking the lesson. I think about some of these elite athletes that you've trained who have fallen down more times than anybody, but the difference is they got back up.
They did, and they have a coach. They always seek out somebody who's done it or will teach them the correct swing. So I feel if you're going to play the inner game of anything, get a coach and mentor and find out. You don't have to do everything by trial and error, and you don't have to do it all by yourself. So you can find people who have talents that you don't have. You can go in a group and invest in a group, and you can by the inch of sense, you can stair-step your way to the top. And that you don't have to jump in and make the big score. It's not a 2-minute drill. It really isn't a 2-minute. If you wait for the 2-minute drill, like think of how much I'd have to save if I wanted to suddenly make enough money to retire at my age. But over time, I can compound it, especially with the leverage of real property where the return on the investment will probably be greater than in equities. At least that's what I've found.
Yep.
I've been dumb on equities, been pretty good on real estate. And most of it has been residential. I mean, it's been my own house. And sometimes you can't buy your own house back because you sold it too soon.
Right. Well, and real estate in the long run is very forgiving, right?
Boy,
it's not a, and you talked earlier, yeah, you can certainly flip a house and make some money, but that's not investing. That's a job. I mean, it's really just doing something and making a return. Whereas investing is more of a mindset. And the best investment you can possibly make is in yourself. And you've been a leader in the personal development world, if you will, for so many years. And people want the answer. But the answer is searching. It's not giving them the answer. It's teaching them to be on that path. And that's what I appreciate about the way that you have always approached it. And the other part is that I've never once seen you speak where you've made a big song and dance about purchasing your programs or any of that kind of stuff. That's just not who you are. We have that so much in common. And I think you said this before, but just when you are the best you can be in the world, and that's your gift to the world, then wealth and all those things may follow.
What's so funny is that when I travel globally now, and all the guys are there pitching, and they're pitching big stuff.
Oh yeah.
And they don't get paid the fee, but they get paid the big stuff by selling people what so when they're talking, they're selling. When I'm talking, I'm teaching, and I'm trying not to sell. So they bring me in on Saturday when everyone's credit card is maxed, and they bring me in legends in leadership. And so I'm one of the last man standing, and so I'm in India. So I'm sitting in Mumbai, and I got all these wealthy Indian guys and women there. And they're staying because somebody told them that a legend in leadership is going to be speaking last. The other guys pitch all their stuff. They give you 5 minutes to buy. They give you special deals. They come back in 2 days with the boot camp and the workshop and all of that. Then I come up there and just share, and they go, Gandhi. I said, no, not Gandhi. Gandhi says, live as if you're going to die tomorrow and plan as if you're going to live forever.
That's right.
You know, and I say, sure, that's what I'm doing. I'm living in the moment, but not for the moment. Better to live in the moment than for the moment. Yeah. Be in it. And I'm teaching them. And so they came down and touched my shoes, and which is a sign, you know, you don't normally touch someone's shoes in those cultures because it's the dirtiest part of the lowest form, but they're bringing down and they went, guru, and I said, no, not guru, just helping you, part of you kind of thing. So I'm really not there to sell. I do get a fee usually because, you know, maybe it attracts some people, and I try to make sure that the reviews are that I learned something from this person. That's more important to me than the fee that I get, that I learned something from this person. I got take-home value.
My last question has to do with something that's always resonated with me from having been in the audience, in your audience many times, and that was this idea of not giving your kids loot and things, but roots and wings.
Oh boy. If I had 2 wishes, I know what they would be. I'd wish for roots to grow on and wings to set me free. Don't make my life too easy. It's better if I try and fail and get back up so I can learn to fly. If I had 2 wishes and 2 were all I had, and they could just be granted by my mom and dad, I wouldn't wish for money and all those store-bought things. The only thing I'd wish for is simply roots and wings instead of loot and things. Roots of inner value and wings of self-determination to be able to go out and do it without being dependent on someone giving you a handout.
Truly a living legend, ladies and gentlemen, Denis Waitley. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Robert. Great to be with you. Thanks so much for coming by.
You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. More when we come back. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Need help with your real estate investment portfolio? Check out the resources page at realestateguysradio.com.
Hungry for more real estate investing ideas? Here's 2 steps you can take today. First, go to realestateguysradio.com and sign up for our weekly newsletter. You'll get access to a continuous feed of thought-provoking commentary specifically for real estate investors, while also focusing on broader picture economics. Then, once you're at our site, look for the Resources tab, where you'll find our amazing collection of special reports. Browse dozens of white papers, webinars, and market reports, and request the ones that appeal to you. What are you waiting for? Head to realestateguysradio.com to implement education for effective action.
Don't be like Charlie, who scans the internet for IRA information, often getting bad information from copycats who have no idea what they're doing. You deserve to work with a reputable firm that specializes in one thing, the EQRP. Lucky for you, Congress just made it possible for you to get up to $200,000 out of your current 401k or TSP, so you can invest that money in real estate or even your own business. Even if you're still working, it's possible to get access to all this money tax-free. Whether you're a full-time investor, a doctor, or a government employee, even if you have employees, the EQRP is your secret weapon. You'll never see this strategy in Money Magazine, only here with the Real Estate Guys. Every major accounting firm in America is quietly sharing this strategy with their wealthy clients, helping them get their funds freed from 401k jail. Hi, I'm Damian Lupo, and we have your solution. With the CARES Act expiring soon, this strategy will be gone forever. The EQRP company is ready to help you unleash your retirement funds now. Want to learn more about this strategy? Send an email to eqrp@realestateguysradio.com for my special EQRP report today.
Hi, this is Chris Martinson, author of Prosper, and you are listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks for tuning into the show this week. Hey, if you ever wanted to do bigger deals using other people's money, or if you wanted to invest with a group that could do bigger deals than you can on your own, well, it's time for you to get signed up for the Secrets of Successful Syndication, our 2-day workshop on becoming a syndicator or investing with one. You can get all the details on our website at realestateguysradio.com under events. Well, my goodness, what an extraordinary man, Denis Waitley.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We talked at the top of the show about perspective, and you could tell that clearly he has a global perspective. He has seen a lot. He's a thinker. Obviously, he was reflecting on the resilience of real estate in his long life and how well it's done for him. And how it works for people around the world. And it's really interesting because most of the people around the world hold real estate in actually higher esteem than Americans do.
Right.
Americans are still, kind of enamored of the stock market. I just saw a study the other day that said only 30% of American wealth is held in real estate, whereas in China, it's something like 75%. So, there's a different way that the world looks at opportunity, that looks at risk, looks at culture. He talked about it not really being a right or wrong, but being aware of the differences and being aware of your environment and conducting yourself appropriately for the environment you're in. But you can learn a lot by traveling or interacting with people that don't look at the world exactly the same as you do.
I also loved his point about using failure as fertilizer. Our friend Tom Hopkins talks about that quite a bit. You never see failure as failure, just as the opportunity to perfect your technique, to get better at what you do, to try again more intelligently. And I think that's a great mindset to have. When something goes wrong, and it will, for sure, you can just, raise up your hands and wallow in the mud, or you can get the lesson. And I think there's so many lessons today. We talk often on this show about the lessons that we gleaned in 2008, 2009, 2010 that are serving us well today. I think across your life, there's a lot of things that weren't fun when you went through them, but getting the lesson can save you heartache and turmoil going forward.
Well, I think one of the most important things is you just learn how resilient you really are. That little thing you had him do at the end about roots and wings.
Yeah.
Huge. You really think about it. Most of the strength that I have in my life has grown from pushing against resistance, whether that's building muscle on my physical body, building discipline in my habits and my thinking and my attitude, or learning how to take on challenges from a position of a sense of belief or ability or confidence that I'll be up to the challenge.
Yep.
I think there are many young people today that have only been in the real estate investing game since post-2008. They've had a lot of stimulus. They've had a lot of emphasis on, low interest rates, and it's been kind of a fun ride, and people have made a lot of money. I think there's a lot of people who've played the stock market that feel the same way. But the world is changing right now, and, if you're used to only playing the game one way, you think, oh my God, it's over. I can't play the game anymore. But the reality is this isn't the first time the world has changed. It won't be the last time, although it may be your first challenge. There are many humans who are older than you that have been through challenges before that you can look to for inspiration, for coaching, for mentoring, for encouragement. And even those of us that have failed, and I'll put myself in that category because I, failed horribly in the 2008 crisis, still walked away with extremely valuable lessons. And, Robert, I've heard you joke many times, well, gee, it's too bad. I think this came from Jim Rohn. It's too bad that failures don't give seminars because they could really tell you a lot. Well, I think that, the best teachers actually do teach from some of the hardest times they've gone through. And you'll find that some of the best teaching you get in your own life come from your very own experiences. If you don't hide from them, I'm a big fan of journaling, and I've just gone through a difficult time in my life and still continue to process that. You lose a spouse after 4 decades, but journaling has been a big part of me working myself through that and kind of mentoring myself a little bit and reminding myself, hey, yes, it's hard and it hurts, but life goes on and you're up to the task, and look at all these things that you can focus on that are worthwhile. And I think that that's just where people need to get. So I think a show like this with a man like Denis at a time like this is really an appropriate message to help people begin to take personal responsibility for their experience, because there's going to be winners, there's going to be losers, there's going to be fortunes made and fortunes lost. We're all playing in the same environment. The difference is our skill set and how well we keep our wits about us. And this is the kind of show that helps you realize that you're capable, just as capable as the next person, if you set your focus properly and hang out with the right people and do what you need to do.
For decades, decades, Denis Waitley has worked with super high achievers, Olympic athletes and astronauts. I mean, people that are just at the top of their game, which is why I wanted to ask him about some of those things. But I loved his quote about stair-stepping your way to success. People think today, especially in real estate, that they hit the grand slam with one deal and they springboard into success. But that's not how success works, at least not long-lasting success. The idea of stair-stepping your way in and taking the time it takes. I remember when we climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, they say you have to earn the mountain one step at a time. There are no roads. There's no helicopter access. The only way you get to the top of that mountain or any mountain is to walk one step after the other. Nobody's carrying you. And sitting there in his family compound, over 5 acres in beautiful Southern California, Rancho Santa Fe, unbelievable family compound. Who he is speaks so loudly with that amazing voice. But you look around and you see what he's attained. And to his point, he didn't sell as hard or maybe earn as much as other speakers and authors, but you can tell from the way he lives his life that his priorities are clear, that it's never been all about the money for him, that he has made mistakes and he's humble enough to share those things. And that's where real lessons are learned. I love the emphasis on real assets and even investing together. So even though I wouldn't consider Denis Waitley our real estate guy, he is singing out of our songbook in many, many ways. If you enjoyed the interview and you'd like to hear more, our good friend Kyle Wilson spent twice as much time with his podcast, which is called Success Habits of Super Achievers, and he turned it into a 2-part interview with Denis Waitley. We did it one after the other, and there's very little overlap. It's amazing. I felt like Denis could go on for days, and he probably could, but just extraordinary to hear not just information, but wisdom.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that you need to avail yourself of that, especially in times like this. And the other thing that's fantastic about a guy like Denis Waitley, and I think one of the reasons he personally resonates with me, is the idea of wanting to make a difference in the world as the primary driver. Yes, we're business people. We have to monetize the mission, but it's really about the mission. You know, we have our syndication mentoring program teaching people how to raise money. If you and I just put our head down and went out and just raised money and focused on raising money and raise a few $100 million, and we'd do fine. But by working through other people, we have a chance to raise hundreds of billions of dollars of money and really make a difference. More people investing in Main Street investing in Main Street, and if nobody ever put another penny into Wall Street, it would fulfill me. That's personally one of my missions. I'm not a fan. But whether you feel that way or not, I think whatever it is you find that makes you feel like what you're doing matters to the world, especially if you have children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, people that you love and care about, then I think that when you do hit the difficult times, and I remember feeling this way in 2008, never coming off mission, because the mission was more important than even the fact that I was having a difficult time financially. And so part of being successful is being able to stay the course and stay on track when you've had a little success and not taking your foot off the gas and going and goofing off because you got some breathing room, and not throwing in the towel and just doing whatever you got to do to make a living when the going gets tough. So I think that as you're looking at your life right now, where you're at as we're going through the crisis, latch onto some causes that you believe in and make yourself about that. Don't take your eye off making money, but make sure it's more than money. Put some mission in there too, and I think it'll be easier for you to go through everything we have in front of us.
Hey, here's some breaking news. The dates, the location, the times, everything, all the details have been set for the 19th Annual Investor Summit, which is going to take place in 2021. We're not ready to roll it out just yet, but we're about to, so you can pay attention to this podcast or go to the website at realestateguysradio.com and check out Summit at Sea to get on the advance notice list. Pretty soon, we're going to be opening up registration. Over 100 people already registered. Of course, those are the alumni, but there'll be an opportunity for you. We'd love to have you at the Investor Summit. It's going to be extraordinary. Hey, big thanks to the incredible Denis Waitley for sharing his time and wisdom with us today. Thanks to Kyle Wilson for letting me tag along. And thanks to you for listening to a show like this. The world is not just about real estate, it's about success. And with these good ideas percolating in your brain, the future looks bright. Until next week, go out and make some equity happen.
This episode of the Real Estate Guys radio show is brought to you by Paradigm Life. Powerful cash management strategies using life insurance. Learn more at beyourbank.com. Mid-South Home Buyers. Low-cost, turnkey cash flow properties in Memphis, Tennessee. Corporate Direct. Asset protection strategies for real estate investors from attorney and Rich Dad advisor Garrett Sutton. Find these and other great companies under the Resources tab at realestateguysradio.com. To learn how you can expose your product or service to the Real Estate Guys audience, call 888-489-7723 extension 4. That's 888-489-7723 extension 4. Or use the feedback page at realestateguysradio.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week right here on the Real Estate Guys Radio Show.